Miami's hot, 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 hot fire. Hello. Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and we are back for another episode of The Real Housewives of Miami, and this is season 7, episode 9, and this is called let me get to it. You already know how I do sometimes. Hold on. Preppy petty people. And before we get into the episode, because I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to episode, I'm glad for one they're finally getting ready to go on their cast trip, or one of their cast trips, because it seems like, well, no, I think it is this is the cast trip. So I'm glad that they're going to be doing that. And it looks like it's going to be an amazing trip. And I love that the money is giving what needs to be gave when it comes to that. But what just came out, and I feel like Bravo does this on purpose to get us all riled up. And what came out was the reunion seating chart. Because apparently they're already getting ready to film that. And so we're going to get into that before the episode. And then a little bit after the episode, we're also going to get into Adriana's appearance at Watch What Happens Live. You already know I don't really watch that show normally. But I will say this. Adriana was super entertaining on the show. And really, this season for me, Adriana... You know, I've always liked Adriana, but I feel like this is really the first season where I'm just kind of like, I kind of wish it was full-time. Okay, you know, I want her to be full-time, just because right now on this show, and I think I've mentioned it so many times before, is lacking that balance that it needs. A balance of someone who just is grounded, who isn't really about the mess, who also isn't so alpha type A that isn't, doesn't really have the conflict of it all. Like a Dr. Nicole. And to me, at this point, this season, for the most part, with the exception of the last episode, which to me, I thought Adriana was entertaining. So yeah, I really think next season, especially if they don't get Dr. Nicole back, they definitely need to have Adriana as full-time. That is just my personal opinion. And honestly, she has just turned a corner, especially this season for me, even more than ever. I feel like she's not giving us the cringe that she's given us in the past. It's just all entertainment for me. Like, she has been great this season, been cracking me up. And also too, historically on this show, she's usually been on the right side of history. Just saying. So yeah, hopefully next season they could definitely have her as full time. But before we get into the actual episode, let's go over this reunion chart, because child, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Alrighty, let's right away get into the scene chart. What the hell, man? What the helly? What the hell? What the helly? What the hell? What the helly? That is what this is giving for me. For one, let's start on the left and then we'll go to the right. Why is the newbie Stephanie first chair? I'm sorry, but no, absolutely not. You already know who I think should be first chair. It should be Gertie, because shout out to Reality Entertainment TV for the I captured that from their Instagram when it comes to the seating chart, and then also my thumbnail. Shout out to them. I've been able to get a lot of great screenshots when it comes to my videos. I just wanted to do a special shout out because I try to cite my sources. I try my best, child. So for real, some of these women wouldn't have nothing to talk about if it wasn't for Gertie. So to me, Gertie should be first chair, in my personal. I don't think Stephanie so far, and again, this is based off of what we've seen so far in the season, so I could change my mind, but so far this season, we're on episode 9, I do not feel that Stephanie has brought enough to the show where she should be first seat. Absolutely not. I think really how it should be, I basically really think so I feel like Gertie and Stephanie should just switch. I think Lisa's in the right spot. I think really well, you know what? Honestly, Lisa could be not even on the second seat either. Honestly, I think Lisa should really be the third. I think the order on the side should be Gertie, Stephanie, Lisa, and then Adriana, because Adriana's a friend of. So that, like, the friend ofs are going to be where they're at. That's just what it is. And even the order of what this is, you know what? It actually makes sense to me because this is kind of like what this story's telling. There definitely is two sides, and the sides that they're on, that is very much fitting. But I think that is where we should be. Is I think on the left, it should really be Gertie, Stephanie, and then Lisa. Because the Lisa and Larsa of it all, I know we kind of talked about it for the first two episodes, but it's really not. It to me is a manufactured beef on Larsa's side, and Lisa's just reacting to it. Other than that, we're not really talking anything about what's going on with Lisa. We're also not talking about anything what's going on with Larsa. So that's why I think they really should be the third on both sides. And then, because if we're going to do, based off of who has the issues, because I'm noticing that's what they're doing. They did it based off on who has the issues. I guess we could go into the other side too at the same time. But you know what? No, I'm not going to agree with that either because I don't think Julia should be. I think Julia, even though I don't like her, I think she technically should be second chair because she has a lot of explaining to do. I think she should be first or second chair because she has a lot of explaining to do, especially all the lies and stuff in her manufacturing this beef. There's a lot of explaining that needs to be happening here. I think they did put Alexia on the first chair because of her. I think they're trying to make Alexia the face of the show. So to me, actually, in a weird way, it makes sense that she's there. I don't agree with it, but I see why they did that. And the way they did the seating, they did it based off of who has the problems with each other. So I see how that happened. I just don't necessarily agree with it. So the way I would have done the seating chart, though, is I would have had, again, on the left side, Gertie to Andy's left and to Andy's right. I would do Julia. I hate to say it, but I would do Julia because of how much she has to explain. She has a lot of explaining to do. She did a lot of messed up stuff this beginning of the season. She almost made the show unwatchable. So because she has so much explaining to do, she needs to be in the hot seat. Because really the first chair is a hot seat. And then after that, then we would put Stephanie and Alexia. Alexia, again, we know why she's in the first seat, but really it should be that way. And then Lisa and Larsa, because Lisa and Larsa's beef is like, we're not talking about anything that's going on with them outside of the beef. And with Stephanie and Alexia, we are getting to that. And same thing with, really same thing with Gertie and Julia. We're talking about stuff that's going on outside their beef. But like, Lisa and Larsa are not bringing anything other than their beef that they have with each other. So that's kind of why I don't really agree with the seating chart, but it's not completely horrible. I see what they did here, but I will say this, even though I don't agree with the seating chart, I just love that Julia did all that self-producing and manufacturing a beef to still be sitting on the end. And to me, it just would hit differently if they would have had the other two, like they would have had like the other friend ofs on the other side and vice versa. But I see why they're on the same side. They basically went by the click because it is definitely giving clicky. So I get why they did that, but that's kind of my thoughts on the reunion scene chart. Let me know what your thoughts are. Again, it's not the worst thing ever. Like, to me, the worst thing that's ever happened when it comes to the Housewives, when it comes to the seating chart in recent times, is really Real Housewives of Atlanta with Drewson at the end. That was condemnable. I was like, who did this? But anyway, let's get into the episode. All right, so we start off the show with a little bit of a housewives montage where we see Larsa trying to call her kids, and really the one child, Justin, and none of her kids are available. She's like, they're all busy. Um, and I feel like this is one of those rare times. I know it was like a second of a scene, but that was one of the few times where I was like, okay, Larsa actually seems like an actual human and a normal person. But never mind, that's neither here nor there. So then the first official scene is with Adriana, and she is at this dog, basically like at this doggy mating place. Apparently, I've never had dogs, so in the comments, y'all can go ahead and put down if this is a thing or not. But apparently, she wanted to bring her dog, and I forgot the dog's name. I even saw the dog on Watch What Happens Live with Adriana. And by the way, Adriana's appearance on Watch What Happens Live was amazing. She had even like Lonnie Love cracking up. So it was a good showing for her. But anyway, so she's there, and then Lisa comes and joins her. And basically she is trying to get her dog to get it in one last time before she go ahead and get her dog snipped, if you get the drift. And so they're just kind of recapping everything that's going on with the group. And really, we find out here at this scene that Adriana did invite her to a party that she's going to be, not Adriana, wow, Marisol invite her to a party that she's going to be throwing. So the event this episode is going to be Marisol's Preppy party. And everyone's kind of just like stumped by it. I don't think Adriana really is so much, but Lisa is. And when you see the outfits, child, she definitely was stumped by it, because she's like, I don't like, they like a theme party, but she's like, I don't know if I like this theme party. So this is, by the way, I believe this is like Marisol's like second event. And that's the reason why I think they keep Marisol on the show, because she does throw a lot of events, and more than like, I think even more than Alexia does. I think Alexia throws events here and there. I guess they alternate, but like, yeah. But anyway, she threw this event at her place, and that is what they're going to be doing. And we find out later on the event is basically to let the girls know about the cast trip. So that's kind of why the event is there. So, which that is a very normal thing for Housewives. You have an event to unveil the cast trip. So that's kind of what this is about. So while Lisa is talking about how she doesn't like how Julia's moving, they're basically talking about Julia and how she's acting, especially with her now befriending Alexia and Marisol, and essentially icing out Adriana and trying to pretend that's not what she's doing. And Lisa is calling it out. She's like, I don't know why she's doing it. I don't like it. It's not really okay. And Adriana's like, you know what? It is what it is. I will deal with it accordingly. And basically, the girls see, they see what Julia's doing, especially Adriana. I think Adriana has been noticed it. So that's what's going on there. And so then let's kind of go into what is talked about on the other side, because technically this was kind of a dual scene, if you will. So while Lisa and Adriana are talking, we do actually see that Julia is meeting up with Marisol. And I ain't gonna hold you, I really wanted to fast through this scene, because y'all already know I don't see it for Julia. And Marisol, she's on my list as well right now, and has been for a while. I mean, I've had issue with Marisol when it came to the previous seasons, but there's always been something redeeming about her. In this season, I'm not seeing it for her. Like, Gertie was a final straw. Like, I didn't like how she's been treating Dr. Nicole historically throughout the years. I didn't like how she's been treating Adriana throughout the years. And now she's doing the same thing with Gertie. And especially after this episode, I was like, okay, if there's no valuable thing going on here, I'm going to speed through it. But the problem is, since she's a friend of, you kind of have to watch her what she has going on. Unless it's like an individual scene, but for the most part, we almost have to watch it. So that's kind of what happened. So I'm watching this, and it turns out they're kind of talking about how Adriana feels away about things, and Marisol's trying to say Adriana picks on her constantly, and it's just like, girl, I. And this is why I can't get with Marisol, because she just ignores the fact that she does the exact same thing to her. Like, Marisol just ignores the fact that, you know, 9 times out of 10, Adriana's just responding to what you're doing. Because if you pay attention to the show, and also if you hear some of the things we've heard allegedly about how Marisol moves behind the scenes, Adriana's behavior when it comes to Marisol is justified. And you can kind of see it through the screen that Marisol is not a happy person. I'm sorry to call a thing, but it's so obvious. Anyway, so then we find out that besides that, and both of them playing victims and talking about them playing victims with each other, because that's what they're talking about. Both of them are being a victim instead of acting like they had any part in the things that are going on in their lives. Um, and so then we do find out that they're kind of talking about what's going on with Alexia, and they're like, what can we do to kind of help with her mood, because she just keeps going back and forth with Todd, and it's just kind of not, no one's liking how Alexia is when it comes to the Todd situation. And so they come up with the idea of, let's go to Spain. And the Spain trip is their thing. And so they end up FaceTiming Alexia and let her know, like, hey, we decided we're going to do this cast trip. Let's go. Alexia's floored. She's happy. She's excited. And then both Julia and Marisol make this rule, like, look, we can't talk about men. We're not going to talk about Todd. This is a trip where we're not going to do all that. And so they agree with that, and that's what it is. And so that's when we also find out that's the reason why Marisol's having this party, because she's going to announce to all the ladies that they're going on this trip. And then also, too, Marisol makes a point to say that she is inviting Adriana to her party because Julia wants her to come to the trip. But I feel like both of them contrived that together. I honestly don't think Julia could care less if she goes on this trip or not. And also, I feel like the producers are making her do this because we've seen other events where it's very clear that Marisol, if she had it her way, she would never invite Adriana to anything. So, whatever. You could go ahead and try to play in our faces, but no. Anyway, moving on. So next we have Gertie, and she ends up contacting and FaceTiming Dr. Medicine. Hey girl, hey. And side note, this is the other reason why I feel like Gertie should be first chair, because she's been bringing the folks on the show. She brought Dr. Nicole, and now she's bringing another crossover of Dr. Jackie. Now, I know technically Alexia did it first where she called Teresa, but that, I mean, child, that's her twin. I'm sorry, but that, to me, that doesn't get, you don't get points for that. But anyway, so we find out, and I'm not really married to Medicine Girl. I just know the faces when I see them. I did not know that Dr. Jackie has, dealt with cancer as well, breast cancer. So that's how they bonded with each other. I'm assuming when she was going through her journey and it was airing, maybe she reached out to her, out of support because of the bravo-levity of it all. And it's kind of like a giant sorority. So I could see that being a thing. But now they're pretty close. And she's talking to Dr. Nicole about what can she do to basically improve her intimacy, because now she does tell Dr. Jackie, like, look, Russell and I, we did go to therapy, and we've kind of got past that point of him treating me like a caretaker, like the relationship of him being a caretaker and whatnot. Now we're trying to get that romance back. What can we do? And Dr. Jackie, her profession of being, a gynecologist, she's like, oh, I got you. I'll send you a little care package to get things going again. She's like, oh, thank you very much. And so then from there, she does open up to Dr. Jackie about what's going on with this group and how she feels like she doesn't have the support that she needs in this group. And honestly, not to skip ahead, but child, Gertie ain't wrong. Um, we'll get to it when we get to it, but the facts are facting. And so Dr. Jackie tries to tell her, hey, remain positive, stay in your truth. And honestly, if those friends, basically, show love to your haters, even though your haters are not showing love for you, because it's only going to make the haters look bad. And so she takes that approach. She's like, okay, got it. We're basically, Dr. Jackie gave her a pep talk, and she received that pep talk. Moving on. So then Stephanie and her husband, they end up going on this double date with Julia and Martina. And again, this is one of those things where I almost wanted to speed through because conclusion wise, guys, I don't really care for Stephanie. I don't. I do like, at least though, that she is not really on anyone's side right now, but her as an individual, I don't care for her. I really don't. I don't know. It just is what it is. And I don't see my mind necessarily changing. It's just, she kind of has a stank attitude, and I can see it through the screen. And I don't really want to see a housewife have that kind of attitude and you just got here. It's like, girl, I don't understand what that is. But anyway, so they're on this double date and her husband is like in love with Martina. And I don't care about this either because, again, I don't see for Martina. So it is what it is here. But then we do find out about this trip. Basically, that's where Julia announced, like, hey, we're going to go to Cervise for, our cast trip. And Stephanie's like, who all going to be there? I will say this in real life. That would be me too. So I'm not really mad at her saying that, but it's like, girl, you already know everyone's coming because it's a cast trip. But let's just entertain it. And so they talk about it, and then Stephanie kind of just has this look like, because at the end of the day, this trip is technically about Alexia and getting her in a better mood. Because again, they're making Alexia's thing be more of a thing than anything else, and honestly, I'm annoyed by it, but that's neither here nor there. I just really wish these women would rally more around Gertie, because Gertie's the one who's a cancer survivor, and her divorce. Just because your picker's wrong, respectfully, why is this a big thing? I'm sorry, but when it comes to priority levels of it all, I'm just like, anyway. I don't know if anyone else called it out, but I'm going to call it out because to me, that's really ridiculous. Because it just is. It's ridiculous. Like, and even Gertie in the previous scene, she even mentioned how, after the cancer happens, it's not like it's over with. Like, now that's just you forever. And you're going to always have the aftermaths, and there's always a chance of it coming back. And maybe I feel I'm personally invested in Gertie's storyline a lot more because my sister, she had breast cancer and then it came back as another cancer, and she's actually still fighting that right now. So I feel slightly different about what's going on here. But anyway, neither here nor there. Apparently, a divorce with a dude that you could just leave alone and you won't have no kids with is a bigger thing. Not trying to compare apples to oranges, but to me, it's not even the same category. But anyway, I digress. So Julia and Stephanie, they excuse themselves from their spouses, and they talk about Stephanie and Alexia and the trip of it all and how they're not really getting along. But sorry. Before that, we find out that Julia and her daughter's not talking right now. And I wonder why. She mentioned that both Julia and Martina both say it's because of the adoption of it all. But if you watch last season, that shouldn't be a surprise for y'all because I feel like last season that was something that was brought up that her daughters weren't really in agreement of them doing this because of their age, because of the fact that it does come off like a selfish move. It seems like a very selfish move. Number one. Number two, like I'm trying to be nice about this, but I guess my whole thing is, are we that surprised about what's going on with Julia and her daughters? I guess respectfully, I'm not. I'm really not. Anyway, so back to Stephanie and Julia talking because that happened right before they decided to talk about the trip and all that. I almost forgot that part. So they're talking about what's going on with Stephanie and Alexia. And Stephanie, girl, you did rookie mistake. Rookie mistake. You're going to talk to Julia about how you feel about Alexia. You do realize that bone's going to get carried now, right? I hope you know that. So basically, she's like, I feel like Alexia talks down on people. Not that it mattered because it seems like Stephanie did later on in the episode. Stephanie actually ends up saying exactly what she said to Julia to Alexia. So there's no opportunity for that to happen. But I don't know. It just could have been a problem there. That's it. That's all. But she basically says, yeah, it seems like she's trying to talk down on me. Seems like that is a thing that Alexia does, which is. And Alexia doesn't take too kind, not Alexia, but Stephanie doesn't take too kindly to that. And given Stephanie's very, very strong personality, almost a strong personality to the point where I don't really care for her on this show, yeah, are we that surprised? We shouldn't be that surprised. And we've seen this pattern with Alexia as a whole entire thing. Anyway, neither here nor there. Basically, Julia the whole entire time is defending Alexia this whole entire time because we know why she's defending Alexia. She is now, that's her friend for life. She forgot where she came from. It's the whole entire thing. Like, she's going to defend Alexia now. That is just going to be what it is with her. And yeah, but I just feel like we're going to see later on that this, like, Stephanie talking to Julia about this, I feel like this is going to bite Stephanie in the face later on just because of Julia and how she's been moving this really since towards the end of last season. Her movements have been very not good. But anyway, moving on. So next we then get to Marisol's preppy party, and we find out the reason why she wanted to throw this party because she wants to celebrate her dad's heritage. Because we know all about Marisol's mom, but we don't know much about her dad. Her dad apparently is from Connecticut and is kind of yuppie, and we learn more about her background of her growing up in a boarding school and basically being part of that, being in that preppy lifestyle. And for the most part, some of the girls get the fashions right and some of them don't. And it just, because really preppy and Miami don't match. It doesn't make sense. The continents are not meeting. And so we find out when we look at the fashions. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we do that, we do the fellow bro shows up. So Alexia shows up. And so they're talking about the preppy fashions of it all. And then we find out that from Marisol that Kiki talked to her and basically said that the way Gertie has been treated, Gertie feels like that they're in a cult. And of course, Alexia is offended by this because she's offended by everything. And she's not understanding Gertie's point of view whatsoever. And so, of course, in typical housewife fashion, Gertie is the next one to show up at this place. And now they kind of had to have this conversation immediately about Kiki carrying this freaking bone to them and this whole thing. So let's get into that. And Kiki, I was trying to give you Belle last episode, and now I'm just back to like feeling the way I've been feeling about you this season. The way you're moving is really, really disgusting. I'm just not here for it. Like, if you don't know what it's like, what if you're carrying a bone, you don't even know what that means. Why are you carrying that bone? Number one. Number two, I just don't like that you are constantly stabbing Gertie in the back. Gertie has made it clear in multiple ways, forms and fashions, that she does not feel supported by this group, but yet you're doing the things that you're doing. And as a fellow Black woman, why? Why would you do that? I'm just so disgusted. Like, to me, I know we're talking about the directness of how like Marisol has been, and even like Julia, and then backpedaling Alexia, how they've been acting this whole entire time. But Kiki, you and the way you've been acting has been so messed up. You want to be full-time so bad, but you're not going to be. I'm sorry, Gertie's that girl. I want, and the thing is, there was, before this season, I really want Kiki to be full-time. I felt like there was room for both. But the way she's moving, it's just gross. It's disgusting. It makes me not want to learn anything more about Kiki, respectfully, because I just don't like how this is moving. And it's just, to me, I don't understand how no one in this group understands that they are literally more or less bullying someone who just survived cancer. I'm just so confused. I don't understand why no one like is seeing it. And they're just like in their own little self-absorbed world and gaslighting world. Because, child, the way once Gertie came and talked to them, because of course this got brought up right away, and Gertie's like, no, I said it. And this is one thing I do love about Gertie. Gertie's like, no, I said that. I did say that, and I meant it. I'm not going to change my mind about it. I feel like I'm not supported by this group. But she tried to come with a little bit of a softer energy. You could tell she softened herself up to try to resolve issues. But I'm just annoyed that she even felt like she had to do that. And the whole entire time while she's trying to be apologetic and trying to move forward, we have this miserable broad of a person, Marisol, who will never be full-time, trying to basically minimize all her issues and making fun of her issues like it's for father. And I'm just like, Marisol, you could keep trying to put all these money into your parties and keep trying to make cocky a thing and trying to make it seem like being an alcoholic is cool, but you'll never be full-time because you don't have a personality outside of that. Let's be so for real. Anyway, Gertie basically, she and the thing is that bothered me, she was in tears as she's trying to describe how she feels. And that's what really just triggered me. And you still had Marisol in the background still just basically making fun of that. So I'm like, girl, if you don't go to hell respectfully, but no respectfully at all. Ugh. Anyway, moving on. Now, one thing that wasn't lost upon me is that Marisol was the one leading the mean girl charge. Marisol this whole entire time, in my personal, seems like she's leading the mean girl charge. Alexia kind of kept how she felt a little bit on mute. She basically just said she did not appreciate her calling them like it being like a cult. She kind of left it at that, and then that was it. Other than that, and we know that is Alexia's like MO though, because Alexia does that so she can backpedal, because she'll see the reaction to how us as viewers see how things are, and then she'll backpedal like she's been doing all on social media since she saw all of our reactions. Because I don't know how they haven't figured this out yet, but Gertie is a fan favorite of the show, and she has been since last season. That was not going to change, but I guess now they're learning the hard way that she's a fan favorite of the show. And anyway, so then all the others show up, and everyone's just kind of going over the looks. And really, Gertie showed up. She was not giving, definitely not giving Preppy. But this is the other reason why I'm really annoyed by Marisol. Also, I forgot to mention this. Gertie was the only one that brought something to her place. She brought her a wedding gift. I don't even think anyone else brought a Did anyone else bring a wedding gift to Marisol? Anyway, she was the only one that did. And it was like a cocktail set. And it was one that she really wanted. And then Marisol proceeds to shade her in her confessional, saying it was like a re-gift. But Gertie, being always on time, if you check out Gertie's social media, she has the proof, the receipts, the timeline proving that that purchase was for her and was for her. So like, it was not a re-gift. It wasn't something that Lisa gave to her and she re-gifted again. And that's another thing. I'm just kind of just so over it. But anyway, I can't let this woman get my blood pressure up. Moving on. So other than Gertie not really having the looks right, we also saw Larsa. Larsa tried her best. She put the titties away for once and put the booty away. She looked actually really good. She looked professional, but she wasn't giving preppy. She was giving business attire. Same thing with Gertie, definitely was not giving preppy. Kiki was giving clueless preppy, not actual preppy. She was giving like she basically looked like Stephanie, the way Stephanie always dresses. That's kind of what Kiki was giving. And then of course Stephanie nailed it because Stephanie's look that she wears on a regular basis is kind of preppy. So like this was on brand for Stephanie. And then Lisa, who was the last one to show up, child, was giving stripper. She was giving the stripper. I was like, girl, you are, this is not preppy. This looks like this is the beginning of an adult film. And when Larsa said it, I couldn't unsee it. I was like, you know what? Larsa, for once, is not wrong. But anyway, after that, then the party commences and everyone seems to be happy in a good place. But before that, I forgot to mention one more thing. Let's get into Marisol and Adrienne trying to resolve this beef. Well, you know they ain't resolving it. Like, long story less long, this beef's not going to get resolved. They're putting a pin on it. And that's kind of what they end up doing. Moving on. So then, as this party's commencing, and of course we see that Marisol and Adriana are resolving their issues. They're really just, again, they're putting a pin in it. They're trying to stop beefing and going back and forth with each other, but we know this is not going to last. No one knows, everyone knows this is not going to last just because Adriana knows how, Marisol is, and she calls it out. And anyone that calls out Marisol's going to have an issue with. That's really what it is. And honestly, truthfully, Marisol gives me she's jealous. She is jealous of Adriana. And because really, she's a more likable one of the friend ofs when it comes to all three of them at this point now. To me, she's a more likable one, and she can't take that. And also, too, I think Adriana knows way too much information about how they really are living. And really, because the fact that Adriana has always been kind of the wild card on the show, their secrets are not safe. And and it scares them. So I think that's the other thing, too. But anyway, one more thing. I forgot to mention this. So during the party, we actually find out that Adriana, after Marisol was kind of explaining her background stuff of her being preppy, we find out that Adriana is going to school at Harvard. But and of course Larsa and them are trying to downplay it, but no, she's like, I'm in hybrid classes. She's getting her psychology degree. And so for those who have followed Adriana, this is not shocking. She speaks 4 different languages and she plays a piano. The girl, you can tell she's smart. She knows what she's doing. So am I surprised by this? Not really. But then I was extra surprised that she actually is doing the hybrid thing. So that means she's going back and forth to Cambridge to take these classes. But anyway, I just wanted to call that out because we have to give her some flowers for that because, wow, that's impressive. So then Gertie then proceeds to again tried to talk to Julia. And Gertie, again, is being the bigger person. I get why she did this because they do need to move forward for the show's sake, but not really for not in real life sake. In real life, I would never talk to Julia again. But I get for the show, she's going to do it. And Julia, receives it. We'll see how long that lasts. But what bothers me about this is Julia is still acting like she's a victim, when really you started all this. And honestly, until we get to that, no apology, no nothing that Julia says means anything to me. And I also hate that Gertie had to cry yet again for these women to receive her. And this is a continuation of what happened last season. Those who saw last season, y'all know. Gertie had to do the same thing even when it came to the cancer of it all. No one took her having cancer seriously until this woman had to cry. And it's like, it just gives, if Gertie looked differently, and I don't need to say it, you already can read between the lines, it wouldn't be received that way. And that's my problem, because this is still honestly a continuation of everything that happened last season when it comes to Gertie. And I don't understand why these women have such an issue with Gertie. I hate to use the J word, but it's giving jealousy. But anyway. Oh, and also, by the way, Gertie and Julia, they talked about this. They had this conversation outside the group. They're back at the group. They patched things up. They hugged it out. They seem like they're good now. Mainly because, and I know why everyone's patching things up, because of this trip. They're going on a trip overseas. They don't want the mess, even though we know we're going to get some mess. But you know what it is. One thing about Miami in the past and all the seasons they've done it, they've always had a good time on the trips. And that is what's missing on a lot of these Housewives shows. You don't want too much argument. You want some conflict, but not too much on the cast trips. The cast trips is a time where they're supposed to be letting it go for a second and get on for just a little bit. So I think all the ladies understand the assignment, and that's what's happening here. But anyway, Stephanie then mentions about the private playing of it all because this is Julia's cast trip. So Julia and Marisol are the ones that are hosting the trip essentially, and for Alexia. And so they mentioned that there is this place in Spain that she wants all the ladies to go to, but it's 3 hours away from where they're flying in at. I forgot what the name of the other city is. And so everyone's like, oh my gosh, to drive. And then Stephanie was like, well, we're going to use my private plane to fly, so it's not going to be 3 hours. So instead of 3 hours, it's probably going to be 45 minutes. Like, that's probably how it's going to go. Because based off of me flying from Chicago to Fort Wayne, because I did that one time. I forgot why I did that. But anyway, it takes 45 minutes. It's a lot quicker than 3 hours. And so that's what's going to happen. And then from there, we then end up finding out that some of the ladies are going to be flying on Stephanie's plane to Cervise, Spain. So, but Stephanie was like, not everybody, because I don't want y'all all on no. And Stephanie, you ain't wrong. I wouldn't want that either. And so she's like, I have room for 3 people. But then we kind of put a pin on it. And then Stephanie's like, hey, Alexia, can we talk? So they could just hopefully get their stuff ironed out. So they go on the side to talk things out and kind of try to patch things up. So basically they do patch things up a little bit, but not really. You could tell this is going to come back up again because Alexia gave one of her mini non-apologies. I'm sorry if you feel, which is a non-apology to Stephanie. And they were kind of going back and forth and yelling and stuff. And while all this is happening, we have Lisa, Kiki, and I believe it was Adriana being nosy, trying to figure out what was going on. And Stephanie was like, if y'all don't get away from me. And they were like, oh my gosh, so serious. And see, that's another reason why I'm like, ooh, Stephanie, girl, you're taking this too seriously. But anyway, so they do end up patching things up enough. But before they do patch things up, Stephanie proceeds to try to give Alexia Olibrand, she explains, I actually invited Marisol to be the third person on the private plane, but she said she wouldn't go on the private plane without you. So do you want to go on there instead? And Alexi's like, no, I'm not going to. If she's not going to do that, I'm not going to do that either. Like, I need Alexia. Like, I need Marisol. And so Stephanie in her confessional was perplexed by this, but was like, girl, have you not watched the show? They do not go anywhere without each other. They have never went anywhere without each other, like ever. Even their ultimate girls trip that they were on there, they were together. Like, let's be so for real. Anyway, so Stephanie then goes back to the table. And then mentions, hey, I only have room for this many people. Like, she was treating this like it was a bachelor, like the Bachelorette. I was like, girl, I don't know. This, again, you already know there's just something about Stephanie that I don't vibe with, but neither here nor there. So we find out that Julia, well, obviously, Larsa is going to be on the private plane with her. That was a given. And then she said, Julia. And then she said she still has room for one more person. And she's like, it's between Kiki and Adriana. And Kiki dismisses herself from the equation. And Adriana feels away because she's like, Julia, really? You're going to go on this private jet and like not mention it to me at all? Basically, Adriana was expecting a similar response as Marisol and Alexia, loyalty. But Adriana is learning this season that Julia is no longer loyal to you. She's only loyal to the cool kids. Which, again, disgusting. And so Adriana and Julia kind of go back and forth slightly a bit. But Adriana does end up being the third person because Kiki dismisses herself from the equation. Now, I understand why the pick was a pick. I think she originally was going to do it where we had... I think what Stephanie's logic was, she was like, okay, of course I'm going to be on my plane. And then Larsa's going to be on the plane because she's the closest person to me here. And then she was then going to do the hosts, the co-hosts of the trip. So I think that's what she was going with. And then it just didn't go that way because Marisol was like, I'm not flying on the plane without my ace, Boom Coon, basically. As it should be. And yeah, so that's kind of where that ends. And we see that the cracks of Adriana and Julia's friendship is getting worse and worse and worse as the season progresses. And are we surprised? No, because we see everything that Julia's been doing this whole season. Side note, one more thing I wanted to mention. So when Martina and Julia were with Stephanie and her husband, I noticed when they show like the scene with the adopted kids, is that just me, or is every time it's giving very performative? I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way, but it's giving extremely performative. I don't believe that is how she really talks to those kids. And I feel like she literally got those kids for a plot line on the show. And honestly, that is disgusting. And I think that is really the real reason why her daughters don't talk to her. Because they know why she got those kids. She didn't get it for the love. She didn't get it to re-raise them. I know that was the storyline she was trying to like thrust upon us last season. But I'm not buying it. Because I think last season we also learned other things about how, how she's raised her kids before. And it's been kind of given, I don't know. I wouldn't trust it. And frankly, anything and everything that Julia says now, I don't believe anything she says anymore because she's been proven to be a complete liar. And she withholds pieces of information, and then therefore the truth isn't there. Because she withholds a significant amount of information that will give you the complete story. She doesn't give you a complete story of anything. And now I almost want to go back and watch the seasons before or see if more comes out. I don't know. Now I'm just like kind of curious because it seems like that might have been what she's been doing the whole entire time and no one caught it until this season, because now we're seeing her true colors. But anyway, that does conclude this episode of The Real Housewives of Miami, along with my little review about the seating chart. And then also too, what I was going to say, Adriana on Watch What Happens Live was everything. So definitely check that out. Her shadiness was amazing. And yeah, but anyway, that does conclude my review. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and I will see you next time. Bye.